Welcome back to another episode of Snap Academy. I am your host, Sterling.
And once again, broadcasting live, multiverse wide, I'm your co-host, AJ, a.k.a. Snap Daddy. Sterling, brother, I've got a confession to make, man. When we recorded our most recent episode of the podcast, our Locations episode 3, I was actually coming off a 1-month hiatus from the game. I took a break. I was so embroiled in the beta testing of it that I needed to break. But my wife started playing. I mentioned this in the last one. My wife started playing, and I got back into the game because I unlocked Beast, and I'm playing Beast Falcon, bro. How's your snap
nice.
going?
So you're playing some Bounce Brothers, huh?
Yes, dude, it's so cool. It's so much fun. And then they Killmonger, but they miss you. And then I was playing Professor X, and I took him out. I'm like, no, I need him. So, man, it's cool because it's kind of like not like a super popular meta deck, not very powerful, but it's been fun.
No, it's definitely a lot of fun. So explain to our listeners what Beast and Falcon does, because I'm not sure many of them will have unlocked those by now.
Yeah. So this episode is going to be our reintroduction episode. So what's up to anybody who's listening and anybody who's a new listener? We appreciate you. We're going to get a little ahead of ourselves, and then we're going to rewind and talk about some basics. But Beast is a 2-cost, 2-power card. When he reveals, he returns all other cards that you have at that location to your hand, and their cost by 1, which is just amazing. And Falcon is a 2/3, a 2-3 power. When it reveals, return all 1-cost cards to your hand. Now, I'm going to get back into this when we kind of talk about the patch notes further. But anyway, what you're doing with this deck is you're playing a bunch of 1-drops that do stuff like Yondu, Iceman, Korg, and actually Hawkeye. Really, he's a lot harder to use because you need to play him and then do something the next turn. I've been playing Rocket, who's also tough to use because you got to play it right to get his power bonus. But I'm playing 1-drops with reveal abilities, and then also Forge. Forge is amazing. He costs 2. He's got 1 power. The next card you play gets +2 power. So you're playing these cards, and you're returning them to your hand, and you're playing them again for value. And the goal is to muddle up your opponent's deck and get as much value out of those cards. It's no onslaught combo with Wong or anything, but I think it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of interaction, and it really brought me back, got me stoked again.
Yeah, no, I definitely remember when I unlocked Beast, and then it took a while before I unlocked Falcon too. But I was playing Beast in kind of a non-traditional way where I played him in my Deadpool deck because it was great to return Deadpool and one of your destruction cards to your hand, and now you have a free Deadpool for the rest of the game. So Beast is
yeah.
Well, Beast is he's a fun card, and there's a lot of different ways you can utilize him.
For sure. And it kind of rekindled that what we were talking about in our earlier podcast. It rekindled that sense of wonder and excitement that I had for the game right when we started playing in beta, and I was unlocking new cards and trying new things. I had stopped playing because I was playing Mr. Negative deck, and I was playing in the heyday of the Mr. Negative. So we can talk about the nerfs and buffs later, but I know that we wanted to have this be kind of a reintroduction to the game because we're pretty active in the Facebook group, and we've noticed that there's been a lot of questions coming up often, and people are looking for information, and we want to provide that.
Right. So back to the basics of the game. So this game is played over 6 turns, 12 cards in your deck. And to win the game, you must win 2 locations. It's not about how much power you have total. That only comes into play when you tie. So if you win 1 location and another player wins another location and you've tied at 1 location, then the game will look at your total power. But that doesn't happen as often as just straight up winning. So your whole goal for the game is to try and win 2 locations.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to try and tie with your opponent and hope to win on power, because there's some things in this game that can put thousands of power onto the field, and a lot of the real good strategy, the real fun of the game, I think, is out strategizing my opponent and claiming the lanes where they can't they can't get in. So that's something for a new player that you really want to know is that, like, for example, this, and we might be talking about things that may be obvious to someone who's like an enfranchised TCG player. But if you're new to Marvel Snap, if you're new to any card game in general, this might be the first card game that you're playing. These kind of things, they might not just stand out to you. But, like, for example, it's about inevitability when it comes to the lanes. If you see that your opponent has filled up their lane, meaning they've placed all four of their cards, you know that barring some other abilities that they could have on other cards, that's going to be basically the entirety of the power that they're going to have at that location. So you might know that, okay, I can win this location with only a few of my cards. And the flip side is true also. Let's say your opponent is only has two cards down at a location, but they've got a ton of power and you've got nothing there. Maybe strategically, you don't play anything there and you let your opponent hopefully overextend into a location, and then you can go somewhere else. So that's something that I kind of a base level thing that I got from the location grabbing aspect of the game.
Yeah, and I think it's important to when you're paying attention to the game and you're looking at each turn, you got to look at the board state. And you really got to know your deck and have a good idea what your opponent could potentially do. I keep bringing that up a lot. When you know the cards, you have better knowledge of what could possibly happen. And yeah, some people can play off meta decks. Some people can play just straight jank, but you can still kind of predetermine where they most likely will play, what they will most likely play, and sometimes it's perfectly fine giving up a location knowing, like, for example, Nidavellir gives cards +5 power. That seems like a really, really strong location. But you might just say, I'm not going to play there and I'm going to let you spend all your resources putting cards there because you think I'm going to drop something big, but I'm not even going to worry about that location. So
Right. A lot of it's about the counterplay and paying attention. You were saying paying attention. This is really key because in something like Magic the Gathering, let's say you missed something and uh, your opponent discarded a card. You didn't see it happen. You can look out in their graveyard, click in their graveyard. That's where discarded cards go in Magic, and see what the card was. In this game, when a card's discarded, it shows it on the screen and it's gone. You can't look at anything, like you can't rewind. So you need to be paying attention because you could be missing information that either A, could help you win the game, or B, could help you understand the game better. As because a lot of times these interactions can be they're not really they can be not counterintuitive, but like subtle, or like almost hidden. Like they're not hidden; they're written on the cards. But if you're not used to the game, you may not notice what's going on. So that's why paying attention is super important.
well, and I think also the big thing that I've noticed, the main card that keeps getting questioned a lot is Morph, because when an opponent plays Morph, there is like a fraction of a second type of animation that if you miss that, you might have no clue how they got, like, on turn 6 played, more than 6 energy worth of cards. And that's because you missed that Morph animation, and you missed Morph coming down and then changing into whatever other card. Um, Same with playing cards to unrevealed locations. If that unrevealed location happens to be Space Throne, which we talked about in the previous locations episode, you can only have one card there. But if you played 2 cards or 3 cards before that got revealed, those cards do not move. You actually got a benefit by having those cards played there early.
Right. So a lot of questions can be answered by paying close attention to the game, like you said, the board state and everything that's going on. Because I feel like with mobile games, it's kind of easy to sort of zone out and whatever. And amazingly, honestly, like with Magic the Gathering, like I've played the game since I was in grade, and I'm 38 now. Oh, I'll be 38 this year. I'm still 37. Still 37. Okay. Um, but I could pick up. you could show me a board state in Magic, and I could be like, okay, this is happening because of this, and because you can look at these different zones and get information. But Marvel Snap, when things change, they change, and if you're not watching, you're gonna miss it. And I think that that's something a lot of times people think, specifically with mobile games, that you can kind of just like chill, watch whatever. Which not sponsored. That new season is dope, but really, if you look away for a bit, you're definitely gonna miss something. So keep an eye, and if you're a new player, this is gonna help you learn. It's gonna. I was That's what my wife was saying. She said, "Oh man, I made like such a bad mistake." I said, "Well, you know what? You got to make those bad mistakes so next time you remember and you don't make it again."
Exactly. Yeah. And that's where I keep telling people, don't worry about what your opponents, the fact that they have, like us, we're well into pool 3. I literally only have 2 cards left to collect, to have all the cards that are available. Obviously, Galactus and Thanos aren't available for us yet, but all I'm missing is Nick Fury and Viper. So I have everything. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to win all of my games against somebody that doesn't have everything.
Right. I want to talk. I've seen posts from new players saying, "Oh, this is Jack, and I'm really missing a few pool 3 cards that I need for it, and what I get there." This is like the gist of it that I get, is that these cards, and I'll be able to play better. It's just better, and that's really not the case. And you can't make decks hoping that you're going to unlock a card to make it better. You just got to work with what you have, and I think that that is really the beauty of Marvel Snap, is that you could have a fully optimized collection and still lose to somebody who doesn't have all the cards. It's not just because you have the best card. Listen, this ain't Yu-Gi-Oh. Okay, just because you got the best cards in the game doesn't mean that you're gonna win. There's a lot to it, and I don't want new players to get discouraged and think, oh man, I can't play this destroy deck. I don't have Deadpool, or I can't do this, and or it's like I don't have Wong yet. I can't do any shenanigans with Onslaught. It's like, no, you find the shenanigans that you can do.
Yeah, no, I have definitely, like I said, my collection is pretty much complete, but there's decks that I've faced that I could tell they're all pool 1 decks. The Kazar 1-drop Zoo deck is still a deck I'll occasionally play, but I still will lose to it occasionally. But then again, going back to like knowing the card pool, knowing what's potentially happening, if I see somebody dropping multiple 1-drops within the first couple turns, I expect Kazar and Blue Marvel to come down at some point. So either I can try and play around that, or I might just go, you know what? I'm losing this one, so I'm going to bow out.
Right, or just wait till they snap. Don't give up more than 1 cube for it, or maybe 2. Two's fine, right?
I have no problem losing or going for 2 cubes. And that's the other thing. Like, if you go into turn 6 and you are clearly winning, I might stick around if you don't snap. But if you snap on 6 and you're clearly winning, I'm not giving you 4 cubes for free. That's not happening. So you got to think, when are you going to snap? And we have a whole episode about this, in our previous episodes. I think it's just about called snapping, knowing when to snap, something like that. But you can
To
find
snap
that.
or not to.
That's what it was. Yep. So we go into more depth about that. But this game is more about cube management than your wins and losses. And I know that's another question that new players have asked, is like, how can, is there any way of keeping track of our wins and losses? And yes, there are some websites that do that, but I don't think that's going to help you out. I don't think that's a stat that's really important. What's important is the cube management. You want to win as many cubes as possible, and you want to lose as few cubes as possible. That does not equal the same as win-loss records.
Right, and I try to look at things from a poker perspective. Like a big-time professional poker player isn't going to keep track of the hands they won versus the hands they folded. They're going to keep track of how much money they've won, and that's exactly what Snap's all about right now with the ladder game mode that we have. I know they're going to be coming out with more game modes in the future, and versus battle. So I'll be stoked. I'll be hitting
Oh
you up for
yes.
some games, bro.
No, definitely. I think I think the top thing that a lot of players are looking forward to is finally having a friends list and being able to match up against specific people.
Yeah, and then eventually, I think that that's going to lead to a competitive scene. Once those kind of systems and mechanisms are in place, then you're probably going to see like a main competitive scene, and I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a third party competitive scene.
Yeah, for sure. And that also brings up that players don't worry about the ranks. I know a lot of people will come in and point out like, "Hey, I just hit infinite." And yes, I want to congratulate everybody that hits infinite. That is not an easy task, but all ranks are is just it's more rewards, and it really comes down to how much time you're willing to put into the game. If you're looking to rank up and climb those ranks. Uh, Me and AJ here, I know AJ, what's your highest that you've ever gotten in the ranks?
It's like 53 or 54.
Okay. I've hit 72 once. Right now I think I'm sitting around 61-ish, 62. Um, I just look to have fun in the games though. Yes, it would be great to get some of those card backs, that Venom card back right now at Infinite would be awesome, but it's not the end of the world if I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't care about the cosmetics. I keep it base card back, forge avatar. I am good to go.
See, I'm a little different. I love the cosmetics. I love the variants. I love different card backs. I love getting avatars. Those are the things I look forward to now that my collection's pretty much complete. I'm looking forward to getting those. So,
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I
yeah.
mean, they are cool, but as a purely free to play player, I only spend my gold on the 500 credit bundle, and that's just it. I do really like the variants. I think they're super cool. It's just not something that I want to spend my currency on.
Right, but once you get to that complete collection, though, you ain't gonna have much else to do, and that's kind of where I got. I think I was about halfway through pool three when I stopped buying that credit bundle because I was just like you. Every time I had enough gold, I bought the credits that way I could get more cards. Once
Yep.
I was happy with the two or three decks that I actually had a really good grasp of and understood how they played, I was fine not getting more cards. It was great when it would happen. A lot of the times though, they didn't add to the decks I was playing. I was just like, yeah, I'd try them out. Like I got Patriot one time a couple weeks ago. I tried him out. It's just not my play style, so I kind of put him aside. He's still sitting at common, so. Um,
Yeah.
and right
I
now, I also, yeah, go ahead.
so I just want to think about it. Another thing from a beginner's perspective, talking about value, I want to get this in before I forget. So I've never bought anything. You said that you've bought the season passes, right?
Yeah, the only one that I skipped out on was Nick Fury because I wasn't too thrilled about Nick Fury. I wasn't playing. I think he's really good in like a collector style deck collector. Every time you add cards to your hand, you get plus power to collector. But I wasn't playing that, so I skipped him. You know. Um,
Right, right. So because they have the new, like the introductory bundle, and they say it's like a value or something, and it's like 299, and you get a variant of Captain America, and you get 700 gold. And I also want to mention for all of our new listeners, Sterling and I, we are big supporters of Marvel Snap. You might honestly, you might think that we are some of the biggest fanboys of Marvel Snap, like how much we love it and how much we're willing to give Second Dinner the benefit of the doubt. But what I'll say is that intro bundle is straight garbage. I don't know why anyone would spend that money. That doesn't seem like a good you get 50 free gold every day. It's 2 weeks of just existing and you get that.
Yeah, but so I'm gonna respectfully disagree with you there. I think if you're gonna spend money, I would love to see them do more of these type of bundles because $299 for 700 gold when normally that's $999 in the store. And then you also got a variant which costs 700 gold. So you're getting it's really good value, I think. Um, I think it's better value than what the season pass is. I think, of all things, if I tell all my friends that I've got like three or four people that are playing now. I pointed out that welcome bundle, and every single one of them have purchased that. None of them have purchased the season pass though.
Huh. Huh, man. So, like, I see what you're saying, that it's compared to how much they're offering the credits for in the store. Maybe their free to play system is just too generous. So I'm just over here like, nah, like I'm not spending $3 on something that I can just earn for 2 weeks of logging in every day. It's just, I mean, I know it's only $3 and
Right.
it's a free game, but honestly, I'm more enticed to get the season pass just because you unlock a whole bunch of stuff if you play a lot, and you get that card 2 months ahead of anyone else. Now, you may not be able to do anything with that card. It may not be as powerful as you think, but at least you're getting a real card with it. And man, it just seems like I think maybe I just have it too good with this free to play model. They're giving away too much stuff, which makes me feel like the bundle's not worth it.
Yeah, and I get where you're coming from. You are the diehard free to play player, where I'm willing to spend some money here and there. I'll buy the season passes. Miles, I just bought this one. Miles doesn't, really trip my trigger too much. I did throw him into a deck, but, I didn't buy the season pass this time for that card. I was already sitting at, I think, level 60 in the season, pass. And I decided, you know what? I want all of those rewards that are still locked. So, that ended up giving me like 1,200 gold and a ton of credits. That's really how I was able to kind of finish off most of my collection over the last couple days, was buying that season pass. And then, the variants and stuff in there, the mystery card variants. Like I said, I love variants right now. They're kind of my favorite thing to get, that and avatars. So I was pretty happy with that pass.
And that's like really good advice also for a new player, is if you're on the fence about buying the season pass, play through the month, wait till the season's almost over, see if you actually were able to get through all the missions, or, get the most out of the season pass. Because how it works, every level of the season pass you unlock, or rather level you achieve, um, a different reward unlocks. And if you don't have the season pass, you just get some of them. But if you have the season pass, you get all of them. And like you said, if you're already at level 60 for the month or the season, you can just pay the $10 for the season pass and get all those rewards. I can see how it might be like an anxiety inducing thing, like, hey, I'm paying $10. Oh man, now I have to play every day to get value out of this. So I think that's good advice. Waiting until the end of the season to buy the pass.
Yeah, and honestly,
If you
like I wasn't even thinking about the season pass at all this month, and next thing I realized, like I said, I'm like level 60 or something, and it's like, oh, I wasn't even trying for this. So I will say to new players, do not bother with because there's two different options when you buy the season pass. You can buy the $9.99, which just opens up the season pass for you, or you can buy the premium for $14.99, which gives you 10 levels unlocked. That I don't think is worth the extra money, because just playing the game, you're going to finish that season pass. It is not hard to complete. I know some players have brought up like certain missions that they're having difficulty with, but like winning a location with one card 20 times it's not easy, but there's ways to do it.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of players will, be winning one location and decide to retreat right away, because then that way they can. Sure, they're going to lose some cubes, but they're trying to complete those missions. So
Yeah, that's a good point. As long as if you have a location, if you are winning a location and you retreat, you still get that reward, right? You don't have to finish the game.
No, nope. I
Okay.
don't think you get like the experience points though, because you have to stick around. That was one of their changes during the beta was you have to stick around through what turn 3 before you get like boosters and credits or something like that. I know it's like I can't remember exactly what it was, but you couldn't just spam you know farm XP for the season pass out of it. You still have to get to a certain point in the game before it actually gives you those credits there.
Right, right. And I also want to mention something level here while we're still kind of in the realm of that with new stuff. To kind of circle back, as far as level goes, like what level you end up being, like I'm right now. But that's because I took a month off. So I lost a
Yeah.
ton of levels just as the reset. So I think it's more of like a personal milestone. Just like, okay, for me, I get to level 54 or 53, let's say 53 round down. That's just, like a personal milestone. I know that I was able to get that far. Obviously, I get to infinite, but, I necessarily have the time to do it. And I really am an aspirational player, so I've got a lot of room to improve. I've definitely been improving since I've been working on snapping smarter. So, our conversations have definitely helped me with that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. That's why I said don't bank on the rankings being, your determining your skill level because it is definitely not skill level. I mean, there's some skill there. I don't want to play that down, but it's not the same as like looking at somebody's Magic, the Gathering record and being like, wow, you hit pro tour every single time it comes up. You're a good player. You're top 16ing. Big tournaments and stuff. That's way different than what we're looking at for Snap.
Right. Who knows what the future holds? But yeah, as a new player, definitely don't get discouraged. Uh, Not able to get to infinite, or if you're having trouble progressing, this game can be pretty grindy. So stick with it, and search out some of the other content creators. Listen to some of our back. We got a lot of content there, and feel free to drop us a comment here if you. I'd love to chat with you. I personally love writing very thoughtful YouTube comment responses on the videos, and interact with us on Facebook too. And I think that it's that the Facebook group is a really big help for a lot of players. It really, and that's what our podcast is all about. It's just about getting as much information to the aspiration player as possible. So if you're here listening, if you're new to the game, we really appreciate you, and we're hoping that maybe you just learn. If you don't learn something, at least you have a good time listening.
Yeah, we try to be entertaining at least a little bit. I know we can kind of get off topic and go on tangents a bit, but that's why we're casual players. We're not gonna give you a ton of stats and tell you this is how you should play. We just let you know how we have done and what has worked for us, and I think we have definitely we've been in the game for 5 months now, so I think we got some good information and have learned some things along the way because, as I mentioned before, I think I mentioned it in the podcast. I know I talked about it on Facebook, but I definitely hated the RNG in this game when I first started playing. It
Yeah, let's
it
talk about
really,
that.
I mean, so when the big thing that happened was getting gambits. Like I didn't unlock gambit, but I got him through some in-game effects or whatever, and it just felt kind of like bad to discard a card and it just randomly kills something and it not kill the thing you want it to kill. But the more I've played the game, I feel Gambit is definitely balanced, because if you could target kill in this game, that would be horrible. I would absolutely hate that. And the target kills that are out there, like Shang-Chi, is very specific. It has to be 9 power or higher for Shang-Chi to actually kill that card. So it's and Gambit being able to kill any card, I am the more I've played, I'm very happy it is just a random card. But you can still play around the randomness. Like if somebody throws down, a Sunspot and doesn't play anything, and that's the only card they have out there, you can definitely play a Gambit then to kill that Sunspot.
Right, right, and also, like you said, you got to play around the RNG. And I had the similar feeling when I tried to make the discard deck originally, way back in the day, and I realized that all discarding is random. I was like, wow, that's not what I'm used to, because in Magic you usually choose and discard a card. But
Mhm.
turns out, if you construct your deck the right way, it all comes out in the wash. Things like random stuff like Ironheart, or even something now, like Nakia, where she only buffs the left two cards in your hand. These things do kind of seem kind of random, but you can control them to a degree, and I think that's where the comes.
Yeah, and the other time that I was really feeling the randomness of the game was when I was big into playing Cerebro, and I still love my Cerebro deck. I play the 3 power version the most, but when I first started playing that deck, there is a lot of locations that can really mess with your strategy, and it get to the point where I really didn't think Cerebro was that good. But the more and more I played, and the more I started tweaking the deck and fine tuning it a bit, now, I can play and still win games, even if somebody plays like a Scorpion or even if the 9 power monster comes down. I have different paths to victory, and I don't rely just on one card.
Right. Okay. I think it's time. We've kind of done our little reintroduction or some of our frequently asked questions stuff. I got to jump to the present here because this is something that we were discussing, not really discussing, but it's been discussed online almost to the point where it's disgusting. Bar Sinister. Okay, first before we get into this, what's up with all the bars? Why is everybody drinking?
Yeah, I know. You got Luke's bar and Bar Sinister and a bar
Bar
with
with no
no
name.
name.
I'm sure there'll be. This isn't going to be the end.
No, I
But
love it.
anyway, so it seems to me, I like I was saying, I play Yondu already, so it's cool. I like making opponents discard half their deck. It also works sweet with Falcon and Beast, the deck that I'm playing, so I can Yondu you and then Yondu you again. But I have
Oh,
seen,
that's sick.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I have seen some numbers from Onslaught and Iron Man that are in the at least the millions. I think I've seen billions on the screen. Maybe not. I'm tripping, but I've seen some really long numbers. I don't like Bar Sinister. I think it's annoying. I think also the fact that you have to like protect the location because someone's going to play Green Goblin and just screw you on turn three. I
I wouldn't do
don't
that.
mind it. I don't mind it. I don't mind existence. I want it to be a rare location. But dude,
Yeah,
this featured location, get out of here. Get out of here.
no, and I think we kind of hit on this a little bit before that the feature location, it's meant to, mix up the meta, but the problem is a lot of the times people tend to find the deck that just does so well. And when Bar Sinister was the featured location, it was the 3 card combo was Nightcrawler, Blue Marvel, and Onslaught. Of course, you can play, Kazar or something else in Blue Marvel spot, but that was the so for players that didn't know how it worked, because I saw the question come up a lot. You played Nightcrawler into Bar Sinister first. That gives you 4 Nightcrawlers. Later on, when you draw into your Blue Marvel, you move 1 Nightcrawler, play that Blue Marvel down. Then when you draw on turn 6, you have your Onslaught. you move the rest of the night crawlers and you play onslaught there. That's how people were doing it.
That
I
is wild.
fortunately, yeah, no, it's that's a crazy, amazing combo. I fortunately did not face that, but I think twice. The one time I saw somebody play Nightcrawler, and I was like, oh, okay, I've seen this enough. I know what you're gonna do. And even though I was losing the location, I played Professor X there. Because the thing with Professor X and Bar Sinister is that he doesn't make extra copies of himself because he's already locked the location down. So, uh, but I kept them from moving their night crawlers out. I
Oh,
still ended
nice.
I still ended up losing, but I was like, you have to work for this in a different way now.
Sure. So I got a little ahead because this is the only location that we haven't met. Well, to our knowledge, that we haven't mentioned in our location series. And when you play, we've kind of alluded to it, but I'll say it specifically. When you play a card at Bar Sinister, when it's revealed, it fills that location with copies of that card. And that combo that you're talking about, man, that really benefits. Now we're not going to get into all the buffs and nerfs that we missed when we took a little break there. But Blue Marvel used to be a 6 cost 4 power card. Now it's a 5 cost 3 power card, and I think it's so much better.
Oh yes, like in turn six, it just was not that great of a card to play. I mean, it was okay, but uh the deck that really utilized it the most was I think the Cerebro deck because Blue Marvel was able to pump everything up to 4 and now he was also getting the bonus from Cerebro. So I ended up taking him out of that Cerebro deck because of that nerf there, but he is
Ah,
I mean it's not necessarily a nerf. It was a nerf for that deck, but overall it was a buff to the card.
gotcha. Um, so speaking of nerfs to decks, something I just want to mention is that while we were out, Mr. Negative has been just completely destroyed. So Mr. Negative went from a 4 cost 4 power to a 4 cost 1 power to a 4 cost -1 power, which is cool because he's Mr. Negative.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but that's not just it. They nerfed Ronin and Devil Dinosaur. They used to have 0 power. Now they both have 3, making effectively taking them out of the Mr. Negative deck. And I think pretty much nerfing that deck entirely, which is good because I thought it was a little out of control.
See, and I think I feel the card honestly that messed with that deck the most that got the nerf was Magic. And I think it was a good nerf because before Magic could be played on turn 6, and now you have a surprise 7th turn, whereas your opponent would be playing like it was the last turn. And it was I mean, I played Magic a lot, and even I felt like, wow, this is way too powerful to just out of nowhere. I'm getting a full another turn, and you've just played out basically your whole hand or filled up all of one location, and I still have room because I knew there's another turn coming. Now Magic can only be played on turn 5, so both players get to see, hey, there is going to be a next turn, and I think that is what really killed the Mr. Negative deck.
Ah, and more specifically, she cannot be played on turn 6. If you can
Right,
ramp her out, she
right.
can be played
I mean, she's
sooner.
yeah, she's 5 power or 5 energy. So for the most part, you can only play her on turn 5. If you have ways of like reducing her cost and stuff, you can play her before that. But yeah, you cannot play Magic on turn 6.
Right. So I think that is a great change. We definitely, I know we discussed this in the past that, man, that changing, adding another turn to the game at the end, that's just bonkers. It's a little bit too much. So I'm happy about that. Honestly, I'm cool with all the nerfs and stuff. I want to clarify something from the last podcast because we were talking about how they changed the wording on Crimson Cosmos, Hellfire Club, and the Big House.
Yeah.
So the old text said 1, 2, and 3 cost cards can't be played here. The way that I'm understanding this for Crimson Cosmos, the new text is cards that cost 1, 2, or 3 can't be played here. When the game is referring to 1, 2, and 3 cost cards, or um, in the big house, 4, 5, and 6 cost cards, it is referring to how those cards are naturally. Like if it was a magic card, it'd be how it was printed. Yandu will always be a 1 cost card. But because when you play Falcon, it doesn't matter what Yondu's cost is. Falcon's going to return all 1 cost cards to your hand. Now, with these locations and with Goose, nobody can play. Oh, no, not Goose.
Yeah, Goose got the changed as well.
Okay. They changed that so that it only looks at so it says cards that cost 4, 5, or 6. It's only looking at what they cost now. So I think that needs a little more ironing out, a little more clarification. But I'm glad that they changed that for the locations, just because to kind of open up more ways to play into them. I think it's just a little weird and a little inconsistent that stuff like Kazar and stuff like Falcon, they're not, and I'm assuming stuff like Magneto and things that refer to what the cost of cards are. It just seems like a little inconsistent. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't know. I disagree with you there. I think this changing in the wording, it's more intuitive because when I first came across those locations and the first time that I had reduced cost or whatever, like Elysium was out, I was like, oh, I could play this like zero cost thing here now, but I couldn't, and I was like, why? It costs zero now, but the game was looking at it as a 1 cost instead of it costing zero.
Right.
So I don't know. I like the wording. I feel like it personally for me, it just made it more intuitive. It just is more, in the lines of how I was thinking about it, anyways. Uh, but I don't know. It can be a little confusing, I guess.
I kind of wish that is there like a comprehensive rule and interaction book or no? I don't
I
think there is.
I don't think so. And that's something that would be nice because they kind of gloss over a lot of things. They don't explain too well in like the tutorial exactly how you win the game. They don't explain too much about like collection progression. There's a lot of things that just aren't explained that you would assume in a lot of mobile games gets explained. Uh,
Or
so
like would exist somewhere to be
right,
found.
yeah. And I know that they definitely have some improvement on some things they can do. I know like they just finished up the symbiote Venom versus Carnage kind of side event, and unless you check your news tab every day, you would have had no clue this was going on. There was no mention of it anywhere on the welcome screen. There's you kind of had to look around for it. So there's some room for improvement for sure, but I think Second Dinner's still doing a really good job with this game.
Yeah, I feel like when it comes to business and art, as an artist, I want to make sure that what I do is right. Or like as a writer, I want to make sure that I've proofread my book. Not that I've written any books, but if I were, or if I were an editor, I would make sure that every word in that is correct. Man, I was watching on not sponsored. I was watching the bar TV show with Amelia, my daughter. We were watching it, and there was an error in the subtitles. And instead of saying the it was just he. And man, I was like, what the hell? Like this is important, and they're just like spell checking stuff. They're not even reading it. They're just spell checking it. But I think that there's a big difference between business and art, and I think when you're doing something like this, you really got to think about the business side. And I said something that in their first week of being live, they made like $2 million. So I could see how maybe they were pressured to get the game out. Just get it out, and then we'll fix it. Although that is a big trend in video games these days. Like the
Yeah.
day one patch is kind of an infamous phrase. So I can't blame them. Get that paper.
No, and honestly, I couldn't imagine what you have to go through to like code a game like this, and then go through all the bugs and processes that it takes to actually fix things. And I'm sure that once you fix something, it now there's a different bug somewhere else because of what you fixed. Uh, yeah, I honestly expect in, the first 6 months, even after a beta like this game has had for 5 months, I still expect for the next 6 months we're going to experience some glitches, some bugs here and there. I know one of the big bugs that's been going on lately is, due to onslaught and the massive numbers that it creates, that sometimes the game crashes and it takes away all of your ongoing abilities, because people have posted some screenshots of like onslaught and blue marvel and it's not giving any buffs at all. uh, but
Right.
I'm sure that is something that has been reported numerous times to the team knows about it, they're going to get on it, they're going to fix it. There's been a lot of fixes through beta, a lot of changes and whatnot. And I have full faith in Second Dinner and what they're doing, though.
Okay, so we're talking about Onslaught. Is Are the big numbers that we see with Onslaught and Iron Man and these kind of things, is that going to be just part of the game? Are we going to have to deal with that for the entirety of the game?
Honestly, I think the reason we're seeing so much of it now is that, Onslaught and Iron Man are very early cards. So
Right.
with this new increase of players that we're getting, all the new players, why wouldn't you play that? That's such a good combo. And once you experience it and you look at that and you're like, how did I get numbers that big? Like, I don't want to do the math. I understand the math to it. It's basically to the nth power or whatever. But that's where I'm happy that the game can do these calculations for me.
Yeah, bro, listen, I took ULC 148 when I was in my 5th year of college, okay? And ULC 148 is glorified high school math, which I actually had to go to summer school for, okay? So don't try me to get anything to the whatever power, because I don't know what it is. I kind of just feel like it's sort of just I feel like it just sticks out like a sore thumb in the game. I don't think it was intended to be this way. I feel like the doubling of power was supposed to be like, oh wow, I got 80 power. That's dope. We're like, oh, guess what? I got 120 power. But like, dude, we're in the thousands and millions of power. I I just think that sticks out like a sore thumb, and I wish there was a way to change it. I don't necessarily think it's bad. I just feel like it's like so different from the rest of the game.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't have a problem with that. Uh because like I said, the game just does the calculations for you. What I have a problem with is that Wong Mystique onslaught combo, that then you play something like Ironheart and now you have to wait 5 minutes for all the animations to go through. That's what I don't enjoy. But I don't mind them being available because both of those decks have counters and they are, again, predictable. There is no way you don't see, if somebody's playing Blue Marvel, you need to expect Onslaught. If somebody plays Wong and Mystique in that order, if you don't have a way to disrupt it, why are you not retreating? Because they are going to do just sick and disgusting things.
Right. Here's my take on Wongers. I think he should be a 3 cost. Maybe give him a little more power because Wong's a badass. Okay, 3 cost, and say next turn on reveal abilities trigger twice or something like that. Give him instead of having him being ongoing, have his ability be on reveal. Oh no, now I'm going down the rabbit hole of the on reveal. I don't know. I just feel like
Yeah,
being able to
I
copy him with Mystique um, is rough.
yeah, and again, I just feel like I've won so many games when I see it come down. Somebody plays Wong, and if I have that disruption, I am loving it because they get so overly confident. But there's honestly multiple ways of dealing with that kind of scenario. You can lock the location down so that, if they play Wong first, they're probably wanting to play Mystique next and then their big, trigger thing. You can lock it down with Professor X. You can lock it down with Cosmo so they don't get their on reveal triggers. And my favorite way is in my Kingpin move deck where I play Arrow on turn 6, and everything that you just played there is going to go someplace else.
Ooh, yeah.
So it's just a disruption and being unpredictable in the way you play. And we've talked about this with the move style deck that is very predictable. They're looking for the left 2 lanes to win, but you can still play unpredictably with that deck and not just do the norm.
Right, and that's actually something I want to touch on again for newer players is that, yeah, if you have a fully optimized, let's say, movement deck, or a fully optimized Wong deck, your opponent's gonna know what you're gonna do. They know what's coming. So, yeah, maybe you've got better cards, you've got the great combo, but your opponent now has more information about what you're playing. So playing an off meta deck isn't necessarily a bad thing. And if to the new players, don't be discouraged. Give it a try. Play with what you got. I just think it's a little ridiculous. I just don't see any way to reel in Onslaught. I think we might just be stuck with that. I don't think they're changing it. I don't think there's any way to change it.
No, and like I said, I'm okay with it because again, you can kind of see it coming. Enchantress and Rogue are really good against it. And if it's a location, then I know people towards the end of the Bar Sinister feature, they were playing things like Scarlet Witch on turn 6, where if they're revealing first, they're thinking you're going to get a bunch of onslaughts, and they're like, ha ha ha, no, you're not. So, being unpredictable.
Yeah, that is a huge thing, and we said it time and time again, and we keep saying it. You got to snap smart. You got to wrap your head around that the game isn't about winning. It's about maximizing gains and minimizing losses. And once you kind of get the hang of that, the game definitely it gets. I feel like I'm less frustrated by the cube gambling aspect of it because I'm not snapping until I have as much information as possible. I'm not, and I'm not sticking around if my opponent is snapping late, or if I'm looking at the board state and my opponent look good. I'm not sticking around for that. So the more we've talked about it, the more I've wrapped my head around it. I think that's helped me a lot, and that actually might be some place where someone who's new to TCGs might have an advantage over someone like me, who I just want to win every game. I want to win every game, and I don't care if I lose. But no, it matters. When you lose, it's you lose progression, and because hey, I'm an aspirational player. I want to get to infinite, but it's hard to do when you get stuck at 50. But I definitely I've been rejuvenated here, man, and I am super stoked to play some more matches with my it's called Bounce Brothers. That's what they call it.
Yeah, that's what I've heard, seen it referred to as Bounce Brothers, because both Beast and Falcon are bouncing things back to your hand, and typically you're gonna. I would assume you're playing Collector or Devil Dino in that as well, right?
Wait a minute.
Are you not?
Hold up. So if I play Collector, then I return those cards to my hand. Collector gets that power.
Collector gets the power, because those cards, they did not
going into my hand.
Yeah, they're going into your hand, and they didn't come from your deck. I mean, they came from your deck originally, but they're not coming from your deck. So yes,
wow.
Yes.
So wait, what you're telling me is that what I created, this homebrew deck of mine, is actually just a worse version of a net deck?
I did not say those words.
Oh man, see that's
yes,
also, man, I've been loving it. I've been loving doing this podcast, because I have learned so much from you, bouncing ideas around that I'm sure that if you're a new player and you're listening, you made it through this far in the episode. I feel like this can help you out a lot. So we appreciate all the new listeners and everybody engaging with our content. It really means a lot here. And because I keep learning something, I I feel like this can really benefit a lot of people.
Yeah, and honestly, I say if you're not learning something new every day, you're wasting your day. So, and this applies to Snap as well in the games. If you're not learning something in the games that you play, then you're kind of wasting your time. Sure, you can be lucky, I guess, and play against some of those players that are not too savvy on snapping, or they're overconfident in their snapping. You might win multiple games that way, but in the end, that's where I think players will struggle the most. They get to a certain point where they're finally playing against players that are being smart, and that's where I've said before that climbing is more of a time consumption than anything else, especially if you're playing against a lot of good players, because the good players do not give you 4 and 8 cubes. Maybe every once in a while, but for the most part, you're grinding out for 1 to 2 cubes.
Yep, and one thing that I see a lot from new players. I've seen it a few times. People saying, "Man, when I started this game, it was easy, and now it's hard." And the next statement can be anywhere between "and I love it" or something to the degree of "why is it hard?" But man, if you're listening to this podcast, then I think you might be like us, and that you like difficult games. I like difficult games because I like to be challenged, and I want to play at the highest level possible. And it can be humbling sometimes when you think, "Man, dude, I've been playing Magic since I was in 6th grade. I can do this sealed. I can do this arena open." Meanwhile, 8 hours later, I haven't had any progress because I'm playing a real difficult game against the best players in the world. And that's what happens in Marvel Snap. When you start getting higher up in the ranks, you're playing against the best players in the world. And what you thought the game was in pool one, that ain't what the game is when you get to pool three, when you start
Yeah,
getting to
no,
those
I
higher levels.
I definitely like how players complain about it because they're like, oh, pool 3 players, they have all these great cards. But I think they did it. It was smart of them to do it this way because it was more of a tutorial in pool 1 and pool 2. You were learning more about the nuances of the game. And then now in pool 3, that's where the really big cards are changing how you play, how you think about the game, how you construct decks. If something like, I'm not even like Sarah, if she it
Mhm.
was, an earlier pool, like, I mean, she's a more simpler one, I guess, but, you know what I'm saying? Like, some of the card interactions in pool 3 they're a little bit harder to wrap your head around. Um,
Yeah, definitely some zany stuff like Sandman is super annoying. Like, oh, like what the hell? Um something like even like Goose, like you don't even think about that, or you just there's a lot going on in the highest levels that not as straightforward as what you're getting in pool 1. And dude, bro, collector, it's got to go in my deck. What am I doing, man?
Yeah. No, I
Oh,
assume when people talk about, bouncing stuff to their hand and things, that you automatically are thinking collector and devil dino. So,
yeah. Well, I'm definitely gonna play because I've been playing Angela too. So
oh yeah, no
bouncing them
answer.
and then replaying them to Angela. Yeah, that's
Yep.
good times.
Yes. Yep.
But man, what else do we got for the new players? I mean, the only other thing that I can think about is the future of the game and how I think it's pretty bright. It's in a game like this with a 12 card deck, you got to expect a very slow roll with cards. It's going to take a long time before every single Marvel character exists. And once that happens, I'll expect new versions of cards coming down the pipeline. New Spider-Mans, new
Yeah,
Cyclopses.
I'm kind of hoping that as well. I know they've talked about it though, and I know Ben has mentioned Ben Brode, the head guy of this game. He's mentioned before that they don't have any plans as of now to create like a different version of cards that are already out there. So the only way we're getting different versions is when it's like a different identity. So Peter Parker as Spider-Man and Miles Morales as Spider-Man. Those are two different people though, so it makes sense to have, you know, different versions of that card.
Sure, like we might see Scarlet Spider or Spider-Man 2099 before we
Right.
see another Peter Parker.
Exactly. And I mean, if you look at, the Marvel heroes, they've got thousands that they can pull from, and they've already been bringing in like people I've never even heard of. I had no clue who Infinite was. Um, I don't.
Infinite, Moon Girl, Devil Dinosaur,
Yeah.
Squirrel Girl.
I mean, and honestly, because of this game, though, there's been a few times like, I watched the New Mutants movie before, and I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. But I didn't know any of those characters. Now that I've played Magic and I play Sunspot, I'm like, oh, well, those guys they're kind of cool now. So
Nice. Yeah, I was watching the Multiverse Madness, and I saw America Chavez with her jacket on. I'm like, oh, that's America Chavez. I'm telling my wife. I'm like, oh, you'll find out later. She's great.
yeah.
Oh man. So yeah, this has been our reintroduction to Marvel Snap. Sterling, is there anything else that you wanted to get to? Anything else that you think the new players need to know?
Not necessarily new players. I'm just curious though. AJ, tell me what is your favorite thing about the game so far? No matter what it is, whether it's the animation, the voiceovers, what's something that you just it brings you back to Snap every time.
Okay, so this doesn't necessarily bring me back to Snap every time, but if we're gonna be like real specific about something that I just love about the game, is I love when you're talking about variants. I love the base cards because they're all done in the 90s hypersexualized style. I love it. It brings me back to my childhood. Every time I see Agent 13 or Psylocke, I'm clicking on it. And yeah, I love it. You see Wolverine, he's just like busting out of there. Oh man, it just looks great. It brings me back to my childhood. What about you?
Yes. I'm huge on the cosmetics of the game. I love some of the animations. You know, if people haven't noticed, like there's times when play a card and it will do something before you actually lay it down. I think like Hawkeye will shoot a bunch of arrows around. You know, uh,
Yeah.
Electro has like the lightning around the cards after you play it, so like you can't play more than one. Same with Sandman. There's a bunch of sand around the stuff. Goose, if you go and try to play a big card in Goose's lane, like the tentacles come out and it screams at you like no.
Yeah, yeah, the flirting, right? Yeah.
Yes, yes. Some of the voiceovers are awesome. I absolutely love if you play Star Lord and actually catch the opponent. Then he's like, "Got him."
Got him. Yeah, man. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's just I love those little things in a game like this. That's really what I love about this game. The next thing that I love the most though is just how Second Dinner has really treated this game, how they are listening to the fans. So for new players out there that don't know, during the beta, that this isn't talked about a whole lot, but it was talked about back then. They tried doing a monetization that just fell flat on their face. It was a loot box type of thing. It was super expensive, and the percentage chance of actually getting something good from it was less than 5% or something like that. Players really had a bad reaction to it. They did not like it at all, and Second Dinner took that to heart. They made it right with the players, and they completely nixed that idea.
Yep, yep, and that's really refreshing to know that the community matters, and if people are going online saying that your game is a giant cash grab and it's all garbage, and it's not called Magic the Gathering, bad things are going to happen for your game. So yeah, like you said, man, they've been super responsive to the community. They've been involved with the community since day one with the beta. And I, honestly, like I said, I got a little. I had to take a break from the game, and I think maybe that's because I was part of the beta. Because it's like the beta is you just kind of got to bear with it, and once you get through that, then the game launches and you just kind of have to imagine like, okay, what if I just started playing this game? I wouldn't be bored of it. I would be stoked, and then they're going to release something new coming soon, so I can't be bored of it there. I think that I got bogged down in the whole thing, and it kind of uh you know what, the thing though, another thing I love about the game that really is great is that it doesn't try to be something it's not. It's not trying to be the biggest, most high profile strategy game out there. It is what it is. It's bite sized, but they cram as much substance into that bite as possible. So I really like that. It takes a lot of great aspects from a lot of great games, and I think it's a really great entry level TCG for people because man, who doesn't love Marvel?
Right. No, and it's great that it's I love games that are simple to learn but difficult to master. And I think this is going to be, in that genre. It is super easy to learn the game. You only play cards out to locations. You try to win 2 locations. You only have 4 spots at each location. It doesn't get, any simpler than that, really. But learning the card interactions, learning when to snap, when to retreat, that takes a lot more to master. And I know, both of us have not even come close to it.
Right.
But it's still fun.
So, like a perfect example of that is, for example, Squirrel Girl. She's 1 cost. When she reveals, she plays a squirrel to the other 2 locations. Yeah, that's cool. When you hear that, that's great. But you take it a step deeper, and you realize that Squirrel Girl takes up 25% of all available equity that you have on the board.
Yeah. Yep. That's now you're not wanting to play just, one powered squirrels. You're wanting to find ways to utilize those squirrels. You can utilize them by buffing them up with Kazar and Blue Marvel, or you can utilize them as fodder for Carnage. Once you start seeing those things, the game really starts opening up for you.
So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to give the listener as much perspective and as much information as possible to look at things maybe from a different light, or try and approach them from a different situation, and maybe that can help you learn and grow, and we're all learning and growing together. So that's our mission. We're an aspirational podcast for aspirational players.
Sounds good, AJ. I really, really like that line there. So, anything else you guys you want to say, you want to bring up, you want to talk about real quick? I think we got just a couple more minutes left here.
Well, I'll just say right now, I was going to save it for the end, but I'll say it because, yeah, whatever, who cares? We're working on a sponsorship. I can't mention the name yet because we're still working on it. And bro, I forgot to tell you, I got to write a script. We got to write a script for that because you got to like submit it in case you little behind the scenes breaking the fourth wall here, little She-Hulk action, Deadpool action maybe. Yeah, you can't just be like, yeah, hey, we're brought to you by whatever, Real Game No Edits. No, you have to have a legitimate script so that they approve that. And then going forward, you can read that. So we're almost there. We just gotta like get the login information and finalize the script. Oh, and we'll be sponsored. We will be sponsored. That
Yes.
that's
No,
super cool.
and like AJ said, we can't really, talk about who it is, but it is definitely, a topic that we both support and think is very important. So, yeah, looking forward to getting that done and getting that kind of info also out to more players, more people. So,
Hell yeah, bro. Otherwise, I am just stoked to start brainstorming our next episodes. There's a lot of things that we want to talk about. There's a lot of things that we want to get to. So I am stoked to start brainstorming and figuring out. Now, we don't really have any seasons, but this is kind of like the de facto beginning of season 2 of Snap Academy podcast.
yes, we're gonna call it season 2, episode 1, because we finished up the locations that we kind of started back during beta. So now that the game's released globally and there's more new players, we kind of want to want to start over a little bit. Doesn't mean that any of our previous podcasts aren't good to listen to. They still pack a lot of information, so be sure and listen to those.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll be revisiting those topics in the future as things go along. But it's always a pleasure to talk to you, Sterling. It's so much fun talking about Marvel Snap, and like I said, dude, I feel like every time we talk, I learn something new. So I'm stoked to put a collector in my Bounce
Yeah,
Brothers
get
deck.
collector in there quick.
For sure.
All right. Well, I appreciate all of our listeners. We love you guys. Again, if you have any topics you want to talk about or want to reach out to us, you can find us on Facebook in the Marvel Snap group. We also have the Snap Academy page as well. This will be posted to YouTube and on various podcasting formats. So, you have lots of ways of getting in touch with us. So don't be afraid to reach out. We would love to hear from you guys. And this podcast would not be the same without listeners.
Absolutely.
So with that, we'll tell you guys goodbye, and hopefully you'll listen to the next one.
For sure. Peace.